Hey guys, for this week's meta update, I'm going to be talking about the 5 heroes that I most underestimated in 7.32 based on what I saw in the qualifiers, and a lot of it is how it surprised me in the way these heroes were played or picked, and hopefully you guys can be able to abuse these heroes yourselves after my brief explanation of what makes them so broken. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Banana Slam Jam.
So first and foremost, Pudge carry. He wasn't even on my tier list because the tier list maker didn't put him there, and at the time of that video, I didn't really think to because I wasn't seeing too much Pudge carry. But what happened was these offlaners with a bunch of summons, a bunch of instances of damage, as well as Death Prophet Spirit Siphon, has probed people to start making Pudge carry a top priority. It was one of the most picked carries in many of the regions in the last week in the TI Quals, and what made it so surprising to me is how well it scaled into the late game. We were seeing Pudge carries outscale Terrorblade people. What exactly is going on is the beginnings of the build is probably no surprise to you. They were going phase boots into either Hood or Vanguard, and then Ags, Blink, BKB, Shivas, or some other armor item like Lotus. And the kicker is the late game refresher BKB dismember combo. The talents at level 20 and 25 on top of the fact that you're double BKB'd, gripping any hero in the game is going to bring them down. So what a lot of people were doing was buying late game Lotuses to counter the Pudge, and then the Pudges were countering the Lotus by buying a Lincoln Sphere, because what will happen is you're BKB'd, you dismember the Lotus Orb, the returned dismember gets blocked by your Lincolns, and that just leads to a permastun. And that's how Pudge was outscaling almost every carry I saw in the game, which is pretty crazy. I think his best counters are single target physical damage, especially minus armor. I think the hero is unplayable if he's not allowed to walk in and be tanky during his BKB. So I think Ursa is by far his worst matchup, Slardar, as well as something like Lifestealer. Now, another hero we saw a bunch of in the qualifiers, and you guys are going to say, BSJ, we told you you were just in denial, and I'll say yes. The answer is Slark. So the realization that I came to this week is that Slark just isn't the hero that we used to think of him as. When I started playing Slark, and most of my games of Slark, this hero was an assassin. This hero would buy a Shadow Blade, an Orchid, items like this, hunting people down and killing them. But that is just not what the hero does anymore. With the buffs to his Pounce giving him 3 Essence Shift stacks, people are relying purely on this hero's ability to pounce in with the Ags, get some stacks going, and then disengage, re-engage, and use his shard to make either him incredibly difficult to bring down, it just takes so long, or to use it on his teammates to just prolong these fights. This hero is a vision utility scout in the carry role. The builds we're seeing most commonly are Treads, Falcon Blade, into either Echo Saber, Diffusal, or Mage Slayer. If you get the Mage Slayer or the Echo Saber, you can consider skipping the Falcon Blade since you have enough mana. And then the Ags. And after that, we're talking like Shard almost immediately, BKB Scotties, you can upgrade into Bloodthorn. The whole idea of the hero is to soak spells, make sure the opponent doesn't see you because of the passive on your ultimate telling you whether or not they do, and then just abusing this hero's ability to weave in and out of fights. And he just doesn't get all that many essence shifts until the later portions of the team fights. And as long as you're forcing spells onto yourself and living, this hero is insanely powerful. He's just not reliable as the carry he used to be. Maybe in the lower brackets, right? Maybe where people aren't coordinated, they just let you pick them off one by one. But this is the new Slark. Learn to embrace it, people, because that's what I'm having to do myself. Next up, we'll jump to a different role than carry, is Marcy. Now, while we saw a ton of Marcy last patch, and we saw a little bit of her at the beginning of this patch, it's what's changed about her is so important. First off, people are predominantly playing the hero position 4. I've also seen it position 5. But in the previous patches, this hero truly was a support because Dispose, being a reliable stun in the mid to late game, made it so the build was Aetherlin's Blink Dagger and just catching people and throwing them back into the team. But that is no longer what this hero does. They have nerfed that and put the stun on Rebound, and Dispose is not nearly the ability it used to be. but they buffed her ultimate cooldown as well as its damage output, and they buffed her third spell, the lifesteal. So what are people doing with Marcy? They're playing her support because she's nice utility in the early game, and then building her into a third or fourth carry for the team. She's going phase BKB basher. That is what I've seen almost every single game. And they are literally solo killing cores with these items at like 30 to 35 minutes into the game. So if you guys want to be a carry while playing support in the first 20 minutes, this is the hero for you. So maybe those people out there stuck with role queue games, just know you still have to buy support items as a Marcy, and you're still roaming around the map, but eventually you'll get to feel the power of being a carry. And it definitely was the highest picked hero in almost every single region. So pretty nutty. Next up, we got ourselves a Batrider. Now, I mentioned that Batrider was super strong in 7.32, but what makes him such a surprise to me is that he was getting first rounded in competitive. This hero is often a cheesy pick because the opponent can't deal with it. No counter to the lasso. What makes it not so cheesy, but just reliably strong, is that it can be picked off lane and mid lane. So if you're somebody that's trying to like learn a new role or just like learn a new hero across multiple role queue games or what have you, Batrider is getting played as in the mid lane as well as the off lane. The build is pretty similar, except usually the off laners will go Tranquil Boots drums rather than Boots of Travel, but then they both build into similar items. We're seeing some Witchblade against high physical damage lineups, Ether Lens, BKB, Blink, Force Staff to proc Lincoln Spheres. The best item to deal with Batrider is Lotus Orb. This hero's win rate in low brackets is incredibly low, and that's just because people don't understand how to play the hero. So what I want you guys to know is that Batrider's all about the vision from Firefly, the damage from sticky napalm stacks accruing up, kiting people and slowing them while you're trying to bait them into using their spells defensively. Batrider is insanely broken, more than I even comprehended at the start of the patch, despite the nerfs in 7.32b. Next up is Shadow Fiend, a hero that has been dead for quite a long time. But what they gave him this patch is that his raises are now a slow once he has hit you with 2 of them. It is a turn rate slow as well as a movement speed slow that gets more and more as you hit them with multiple raises. So what I've noticed is this hero is getting played carry, not only in the mid lane. This hero, I put him in like C tier for my carry list last week, but we saw him getting picked in multiple regions in the finals of the European qualifiers to win for Entity. I mean, this hero is insane if played properly. The build in the mid lane is to go max raises with an early point and ult, while on the side lane, it's to go 3-3-0 back to 1 point for minus armor, back to maxing your Necro Mastery, so it's a 3-4-1 build, only leveling your ulti if you need to, and then going back for a Mask of Madness. So the only difference between the 2 builds in the lanes is that in the safe lane, people are going Treads, Basilius, and Raindrops for regen into Mask of Madness, but then the build is the same. But in the mid lane, they're obviously going Bottle for the mana regen, so it's usually Treads, Bottle, Dragonlance, no Mask of Madness. So what the build is usually physical based, and what makes this hero scale so well is that his level 25 talent makes his raises apply attack damage, which is insane because in the past, this hero's raise was basically useless, but now it's a slow that can crit. It applies on-hit modifiers like Scotty, so now his raises go from hitting for like 300 damage at level 25 to whatever his attack damage is, which can be upwards of like 1,000 damage total with some crits. So the builds we're seeing are Mask of Madness, Dragonlance, we're seeing some Mantas, BKBs, Satanics, Daedalus, Silver Edge, and the Shard is also insanely strong. So if you guys want to try him out in the mid lane, you want to get some swagger going on the Swagger Fiend, he's a mid lane or a safe laner, definitely a hero to be learning right now, as you'll probably be seeing me experiment with him on my stream, as I have not traditionally been much of a Shadow Fiend player. But thanks for watching, guys. Those are my 5 most underestimated heroes of 7.32 and heroes I'm going to be looking to try in my games, especially the Pudge and the Shadow Fiend, and of course my boy Slark. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. See ya.